This is going to be a rant entirely based on the projection of my own issues and internet trends that may or may not encompass the actual opinions of the general public. I'm declaring this now because I already know there's going to be a bunch of smarty pantses in the comments being like, oh, this is just a big yap session because of your insecurities. Yeah, I know. And then they will still proceed to watch through the video. So if you sit here through the video and you still complain about the video, you're an even bigger fool than I am. With that being said, I don't understand the obsession with being nonchalant. Being nonchalant, chill, cool, apathetic is trendy now. I see so many videos on my Pinterest and on my YouTube about how to be nonchalant or how not to try too hard or how to be effortless. I'm trying to be nonchalant in front of fine she. Everywhere I look, everyone is trying to be nonchalant. And again, maybe this is just internet drama, but that doesn't mean it doesn't reflect the actual opinions of some actual people. So my question is, why? Why has it suddenly become popular to be quiet and reserved and not express emotion? Because I feel like some of you have a completely misconstructed ideal of what a nonchalant person actually is. I don't actually believe that you guys want to be nonchalant or have a nonchalant boyfriend or whatever. Whenever anybody talks about being nonchalant, you don't really picture a mysterious, quiet, edgy, cool person like that one character in an anime who's just always salty and always quiet. The guy who doesn't talk to people, gives one-word answers, doesn't really like to smile much or talk to people. Everyone claims they want to be that person or be around a person that's like that because they're cool and mysterious. No, you don't. I don't actually believe that you do. Because I feel like nobody in real life acts particularly in that manner. At least not the super like cool and romanticized version of it. And for the people who do have characteristics like that, a lot of them probably have severe social anxiety. I speak from experience because I am that person. The really weird thing to me is the quiet, reserved person who doesn't talk to other people and kind of keeps to themselves. They have never really been the person that's portrayed to be the super cool person that everybody wants to be around. Not typically anyway. I mean, it's always the party people, you know, the funny people, the bubbly, super enthusiastic and animated people. Those are the type of people that normally you would think you would gravitate towards. And not just in media, but in real life as well. Which is something that I personally noticed after quite some time, after realizing my crippling social anxiety is what's stopping me from being able to communicate with other people and make friendships. So because of this, I have learned to adapt. When you first meet me, I'm going to be super energetic and friendly. I'm trying to make jokes that probably won't land and probably aren't good, smiling and laughing a bunch even though I really hate my smile, and I'm going to reciprocate the kind of energy that you give me. Because I've become painfully aware of how people react sometimes when I'm in my default state, which is dull, bland, and boring. And a lot of times people tend to mistake it for dismissiveness or just downright being rude, which I can't even completely get mad at because things can get misinterpreted through translation. Think about texting, for example. For me personally, if you are not using 1,000 emojis and 1,000 exclamation marks in your text, I'm going to assume that you hate me and I'm never going to text you again because I feel like I am a nuisance to your existence. So it's the same deal with in-person communication, although it is a little bit easier to pick up, of course. But facial expression, body language, and verbal language is all going to play a role in how people perceive you and your attitude. And if you're kind of just dull, standing there like an NPC in the corner, people are probably gonna assume that you don't want to talk to them, which in some cases I probably don't, I'm not even gonna lie. But in other cases, I don't want that to happen. I don't want to set myself up looking like an uninviting person. So I tend to animate myself a little bit more so people don't mistake me and my personality for just being apathetic or not caring. Now, I would not consider this being fake or phony like some of you are probably thinking, right? Well, then you're not really being yourself. That's being fake. That's smiling in front of people's faces and, you know, turning behind their back and talking bad about them. No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not saying that people can, you know, tend to act like that and try to be all buddy-buddy with you, and then the minute they turn around, like, oh my gosh, I hate that guy. But that's not so much what I'm describing here. That's definitely more of bringing out a certain persona for a certain occasion. As I was talking about in my video a while back about people not having personalities, so they use things like aesthetics and trends and even parts of their identity in order to cultivate their entire personality around it. You have many different personas or portrayals of yourself that you switch through that you may not even realize. Like the example I gave before, the way that you act around your parents is different how you act around your friends, and the way that you act around your friends is different how you act around strangers. There's certain levels of comfortability that you have with certain people, and obviously people are going to react differently to your different personas. You may be cool making dark humor jokes around your friends, but if you're talking to a stranger about how you just hid another body in your closet, there is always the likelihood that they may call the cops on you. So these different personas are not necessarily bad, nor fake, nor phony. It is still a part of you and your personality, and is essential to navigating through social settings. So in the instance of the nonchalant persona, for those of us who have that as our default persona and personality, it can be a little bit difficult to know when it's appropriate to default to. Again, especially if you're trying to make friends or talk to people that you're new with. Because not only can people mistake this type of behavior for being dismissive, but they can also mistake it as just being depressed, and it concerns people. So for example, a personal example, at the college that I go to right now, I met my wonderful, amazing, former history professor. So there's this thing that he does, or he used to do, called AMA hours. Taken from the Reddit trend Ask Me Anything. He would set an hour for his students to come sit with him, somewhere on campus and sit down with him and talk to him and ask questions about, school or work, or just about life in general, even if you're not one of his students anymore. And so he would set these hours, and a bunch of different students that he had or that he knows from his different classes, they would all gather around and they would all sit and chat. And me going to these little sit down talk hours allowed me to meet some really cool people, some of whom I've gotten more acquainted with over time. So again, for the very beginning of these meets, when I learned about these, I would put on my I'm meeting you for the first time persona and be all bubbly and enthusiastic and joking and stuff. But as I got more acquainted with the people who were there and talked to them more, I guess I got pretty comfortable without actually realizing it, and slowly but surely my mask began to fade away because I ended up defaulting to my factory settings of the quiet kid in the corner of the class who doesn't talk. I just began talking less, being less animated, not smiling as much, and kind of focusing on my work because I would also do schoolwork while I was there. But I just ended up toning everything down without even realizing it. And I kid you not, almost every other day, my professor or one of the students who were there would sit down like next to me, across from me, and go, "Hey, is everything all right? Are you good?" And I was so confused because I'm like, why is everybody asking me these questions all of a sudden? What changed? Like, I'm here and I'm fine. Like, what are you guys seeing that I'm not seeing? And I realized it's because I stopped being as enthusiastic as I used to be when I first met them. I just got comfortable. It's basically how I act around, my house and my family and stuff. Just dull and quiet and reserved. And then it dawned on me, and while they all started asking me around the same exact time, they literally thought that I just fell into a depression and didn't want to talk to anybody. When it's like, no, that's just me. That's just default me. I mean, some of those days I was actually depressed, but that's besides the point. Or another instance that is not as funny as entertaining as the last story. This actually made me a little bit sad for a while when it actually happened, but it happened my senior year of high school. Now, just for context, I was homeschooled for the majority of my life from, I think it was 4th grade to 11th grade, so I only had like a few years in public school when I was a child. We ended up homeschooling, and my very last year of high school, I went into public school. It was not the best idea. The mental torture that I went through because of myself and my own social anxiety was unbearable at times. I was this close to dropping out, and I am not even joking. That's a story for another day. But the point is, like, my social anxiety was already really bad at this point in time because I was not used to being around kids my age. In the homeschool that I was at, we didn't really do any extracurriculars. We didn't really go out much, so it really was just me inside around my siblings all the time. So, being thrust into the world of being around a bunch of cool and hip teenagers when I have no experience with that was not fun, you can imagine. So anyways, that was already making things difficult. And there was a specific instance where it was a certain class and certain girls that I was around. It was a weightlifting class, and for things like that, the extra classes, the electives, the elective classes, those obviously you can be around kids who are, part of all grades. So you have a bunch of freshmen and a bunch of sophomores, stuff like that. I actually think I was the only senior in my class period. I was around a bunch of like 14-year-old, 15-year-old girls. Like I said, in the very beginning, it was fine. It was chill. I'm sure I was really awkward with a lot of stuff, but I was trying my best to once again put on my bubbly, happy, fun, hi, I'm meeting you for the first time persona. And after a while, I think it just started to die down. Not even really because I was comfortable in that instance, but just more, I think I just stopped caring. But I did enjoy talking to the girls and, communicating with them. But towards the end of the semester, I could kind of feel them like drifting away, like them not really enjoying talking to me anymore, or like wanting to come up to me and have conversations with me. They would just kind of be in their own little clique group and have their conversations, and I was always kind of like over there outside of the conversation. Like in the very beginning, it hurt a little bit because I was like, oh dang, like, I thought we were chill, I thought we were talking, I thought we were cool. But then I had to think about it, and it's like, can I really blame them? I was not interesting, and I also was not giving them anything to work with. Whenever they tried to have a conversation with me, I didn't know how to converse. They would also talk about a lot of stuff that I wasn't familiar with, I didn't know. They'd be like, oh, like I went to the mall last week, and then I got my nails done, like show your nails. I'm like, oh, did you go to the mall yet? Or like, what's the last time you got your nails done? Like, I don't know. I don't. My family didn't take us anywhere. We wouldn't go out. It's like, what am I supposed to talk about with them? The age gap, I think, did a lot too, because like I said, I was like 17, 18, I'm like legal adult, and then they're like 14, 13, 15, just reaching those teen years. So they're doing all the fun, cool teen stuff, and I'm already out of that phase. So I just feel like there's nothing we can really relate on. Because of that, I just wasn't really good at conversing with them. So it was just very clear that after a while, they just didn't really like talking to me all that much because I wasn't really giving them anything to work with. And also, again, I was kind of defaulting to my more quiet, reserved personality. In other words, I wasn't fun. I wasn't very fun to talk to. I wasn't fun to be around. I really didn't add anything to the conversation or to the energy of the group. So they ended up kind of drifting away towards the end of the semester. That's why it frustrates me when people are like, I want a nonchalant friend, or I want to be nonchalant, or I want a nonchalant boyfriend. It's like, do you really though, or are you just saying that? Because for most of us who act like that aren't doing it because we want to, or that we're trying to be some cool, edgy, mysterious person. It's again simply because of our personalities. Some people are just super introverted, not antisocial. That's not what that means. I know we tend to throw that phrase around a lot and be like, oh, I'm so antisocial. No, that's not what that means. It's actually not even completely what you think it is. It is a clinical personality disorder, and it goes way beyond just not liking interacting with people. Like there's actually a lot of aggressive and maladaptive traits that are associated with having this disorder, and it's actually found a lot within like psychopaths, sociopaths, and serial offenders. So no, you're not antisocial, and you don't want to be. But more specifically and more accurately, you would be just very introverted, or basically you just need a lot of time alone to recharge, and you might have like a very small social battery, so you can only be in social settings like parties or whatever for a short period of time. So a lot of us just may be like that, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with being introverted. Or we just once again have very bad social anxiety, which that is not very good. So we tend to be not as super engaging or enthusiastic, because every time we literally try to say anything, our anxiety is ready to shut us down and tell us to shut up and stop being so weird because of the way that we said hi, how are you to the checkout lady. Now it keeps replaying in my head and I can't stop thinking about it for the rest of the day. And at that point, it just never makes you want to open your mouth again. You just never want to talk. Like for most people, again, when it comes to like the media version of being nonchalant, it's very different from somebody who genuinely has those traits and genuinely acts like that. And again, typically speaking, these are the people who people call boring and not fun. These are the party poopers. These are the joy kills. So it's just a little strange to me why all of a sudden we're flipping the switch and like, I want to be nonchalant. Do you really? Now, as for why I think it got so popular, it's getting so popular all of a sudden, my initial thought went towards the pendulum situation of humanity having this tendency to push ideals to opposite extremes as a way to create damage control or to find balance, which in theory sounds right, but in practice is not so effective. And with the rise of the internet, a lot of people have gotten really comfortable with oversharing, trauma dumping, giving out vital information that could possibly put them in danger, telling the whole world about their family drama. I made a whole video about this a while ago, but people subject people on the internet to information that just may not be a good idea to share in the first place. And a lot of people do this probably just because they want to seem more like raw and vulnerable or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you can share personal stories, that's fine. I mean, I just shared a couple of my own personal stories, but like, there's a limit, you know, you have a right to your privacy, and I feel like you should probably exercise that right. Everyone does not need to know absolutely everything about you, and a lot of people have been showing frustration for this. So I figured maybe this is a response to the massive oversharing issue that a lot of people are having on the internet. So maybe now people are turning to being more reserved and quiet about themselves to offset that. Again, that was theory one. But I'm starting to realize that's probably not what it is. People love being nosy, just in general. People love being in other people's business. They love hearing drama. They love gossiping. That's what makes things fun and interesting, right? Spilling the juicy tea. I mean, not too long ago, there was that huge, trending story on TikTok, the Who TF Did I Marry girl. People were tuning into that like it was a Netflix series. No. People like it when other people overshare and tell too much about their life. So I was like, it's probably not that most people anyway, are tired of people oversharing and then turning to being more reserved about themselves. That's probably not what it is. Then there's the theory of cringe culture and just not trying too hard. I talked about this too in a previous video, but everything is considered cringe nowadays. You can't even exist on the internet without being called cringe. And this also just translates into not putting effort into anything or trying to be as lax as possible, because being a tryhard is not cool. Being a tryhard is doing too much, and you don't want to seem like you're doing too much. You'll even see this with like lifestyle advice and dating advice. Don't text first. You don't want to seem like you're trying too hard. Let them be the ones to pursue you, not the other way around. You're too classy for that. You're too much of a high value woman or a high value man for that. Or even things like manifesting things in life to come to you. Like, oh, you don't have to work for anything. You just manifest. You say you have it, and there you have it. I have no idea how it makes logical sense to demonize putting effort into things and working hard for things. I always find it admirable when people are passionate and work hard for something that they truly love and put a lot of effort into pursuing something and making something happen. But not trying hard has basically become an ideal that surrounds the notion of, I don't have to put effort into things because they will come to me. Which, sure, in some cases, obviously, like, you should have standards, you should set standards for yourself, but everyone should put effort into something that they're passionate about or someone that they're passionate about. And you are not obligated to anything in life too. That's the concerning thing about that, because it's like you now get this entitled mentality where it's like, I deserve this. It's like, Well, do you though? No one is obligated, or you're not obligated to anything in life, okay? Nobody is. Which brings me to my third theory of the main character syndrome. I also made a video about this in the very wee days of my channel. But psychologically speaking, we tend to think that people care about us a lot more than they actually do. It's just in our nature, and because of this, we tend to be a little bit vain. Not narcissistic. Again, same deal with antisocial. That is a clinical personality disorder. It means kind of what you think it means, but there's also way more to it. It's not just being vain and self-absorbed, because we are all that to a certain degree. Now, I'm not saying that some of these people may not actually have, narcissistic personality disorder, but again, that has to be like a clinical diagnosis. But yeah, we're all vain, we're all self-absorbed to some degree, and all of us think that people care so much about us more than they actually do. And the internet has inflated that ego amongst us all, right? So people who may want to act or be nonchalant probably think that people are going to look at them and go, oh wow, they're so mysterious, I want to learn more about them. No, that's not how that works. I can assure you, nobody cares about you nearly as much as you think they do. Like that 9 times out of 10, that's not going to happen. I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying the chances are slim. The only way that would actually realistically happen, I feel like, is if you're conventionally attractive. If you're hot, then that makes sense. People are gonna wanna go to you if you're super quiet or reserved because you look good. Even then, it's not really so much about your personality, it's about the fact that they look hot, so I wanna talk to them. I'm not saying eventually they can't turn into interest of you and your actual personalities and hobbies, but I'm saying initially, if there's a dude standing in the corner of the room, doesn't talk to anybody, but he's really good looking, I can assure you people are gonna wanna go up to him and talk to him just because he looks good. But other than that, no. Nobody is gonna be staring at you thinking wow, they're so quiet and nonchalant. I think I want to talk to them, they're so mysterious. Again, this is not anime. This is not the anime universe. This is not actually how this happens. That only works in anime when you're the main character, okay? Now, I don't want to make it seem like I'm throwing nonchalant or reserved and quiet and shy people under the bus. I guess I kind of am, though. I'm not saying that a person who maybe has these traits cannot realistically make friends or talk to people or isn't an interesting person. That's just how I think about myself, of course, because of my experiences, that's kind of what I've been picking up on. I'm just trying to say it's not as fantastical and cool as the media and other people try to portray on the internet. Again, for a lot of people, if we're being very realistic and 100%, the shy, quiet person is not really the type of people that other people gravitate towards, They're normally looking for somebody to bring energy and fun to a room. I mean, that always has kind of been the thing, especially in school, the shy kid that nobody talks to, they sit alone at lunch and stuff like that. It's rare that people go to them and think, wow, they must be the life of the party. You normally want to be around the popular people, the fun people, the funny people. And I'd be lying if I said that I didn't wish that I had that personality and that I could be that type of person. Going back to my senior year of high school, there was this one guy in my language arts class. His name was Denzel. He was one of the chillest dudes you will ever meet. And every single time he entered a classroom, every single time, everyone was like, hey yo, blah, 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 da, 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 da. That's not what they said, obviously. But I'm just saying, he brought the energy. He brought the thing that everybody wants. He was there and yeah, okay, now we're pumping, now the party started. And he was one of the few people in that class that actually made me feel welcome, not feel like an outsider. And I desperately wanted that personality. For the longest time, I really wished that I had that personality. And I tried to change. I actually really did. I tried to force myself to be a bit more outgoing, I guess, and more open, and make that my default personality instead of dull, dry, and drab. But it ended up not working, and then I just gave up after a while because I was it's not really worth it, trying to change the entirety of who I am just so people can think I'm cool. If people drift away from me when I'm in my dull, drab mode, then I mean, so be it. They're just not for me, and that's fine. Again, I know a lot of people think that the energetic, enthusiastic people are the fun ones, but you can have a dull personality and still be likable. Take Moist Critical as a perfect example. I love his videos, millions of other people love his videos, and he is one of the most dull, drab, monotone YouTubers out there. To be fair though, he's actually funny and entertaining, so I guess it's not right for me to try to compare myself to him or to other type of dull people, but I'm just saying, he's an example of a person who's not super animated and wow and energetic. People still enjoy him and his content. But even the sheer fact that I change the way that I talk on camera and I animate myself on camera shows that I still have that inkling of, I kind of wish I was a bit more approachable, I guess. I don't know. Because this is not me. This is another persona. This is my camera persona. This is my internet persona. But the way that I present myself on camera and on the internet, and when I try to make jokes and trying to be funny and stuff like that, that in itself is my understanding that that's more of what people like. Because the minute I turn this off, this goes away. And I know a lot of people probably feel the same way as me. I imagine that a lot of people feel like having a boring personality or just being dull and more quiet and reserved seems like an undesirable trait. And I imagine that there's a lot of people who, just like me, try to change that, you know? But honestly, it's one of those things where it's like, you'll find the right people. Again, you're not supposed to be compatible with everybody. If people are looking for other people who are energetic and bubbly like them, then that's fine. You know, you don't have to be friends with everybody. Everybody doesn't have to like you. If people don't like your dull personality, they're just not meant to be around you. That's it. But again, being more dull and quiet and reserved doesn't like make you like an undesirable person or somebody that no one wants to be around. It's just more likely that people who are on the opposite spectrum of that, really fun and bubbly, may not find you as interesting. Again, that's just been my experience, where it's like having somebody the polar opposite of me. It's like, you know, I'm trying to match their energy, but then when I don't, it's like I'm just kind of boring and dull. So it really just depends on finding the right person who actually can either reciprocate that energy that you have or is just cool with that energy that you have. But it does not make you or your traits undesirable. And that's something that I kind of had to tell myself for the longest time, again, trying to change my personality. And I was just like, bro, it's not worth it, man. There is no point in deliberately changing your personality just because it's trendy in the moment. If we all had the same personality, then everything would be boring. You know, we need variety. And also, all personalities or personas have downsides. Being bright and bubbly kind of makes you the signature joker, you know, the signature energy bringer to a room, the signature party person. Everyone kind of leans on you for that energy, you know, and it can be a little bit draining. So there's downsides to everything, there's upsides to everything, and you just need to be around the right people who are chill with that default personality of yours, whether it be dull and quiet or bubbly and energetic, because some people might actually find that personality annoying too, like the super loud, eccentric type of person. I'm not gonna lie, like there are some people who I have met who are like that, and I'm just like, no, I don't really know if we'll get along, because I'm just more quiet and reserved, like being loud all the time and just super energetic. It's too much for me. So again, it depends. Like sometimes you're just not compatible, sometimes it's just not gonna work. And sometimes, once again, you have to change those personas to, you know, reciprocate energy or just socialize in the appropriate environment. So just be whatever seems fit at the time, but there's no need to change your like default personality simply because you think it's not interesting. Don't force yourself to be nonchalant because that's the trend now, when you think that people are going to find you interesting about it. People will find you interesting because they find you interesting. Okay, so if that means you're nonchalant, people like you because of that, or that means you're bubbly and energetic, people like you because of that. But don't go around trying to deliberately change yourself just to fit in some personality trend, for anybody who may have actually been doing that. Because again, sure, you could just say, oh, this is just internet drama, no one's actually doing that. It's like the internet is actually the best place to actually see or look into the inner thoughts of people in their mind, because it's the one place where people feel comfortable saying stuff that they would never say in person. So even if it may not be completely representative, I have no doubt that some people are probably thinking like, oh, I should be like dark and mysterious and like, you know, I should try to be that type of person. And it's like, no, do what it is that you do on a daily basis. Don't make some glamorized version of a certain personality, because 90% of the time, that's not actually how it's going to be portrayed in real life. But don't like force yourself to be nonchalant, okay? Because I have a feeling that that's not actually what you want. Anyways, that's all for today. Just, again, a rant video because of my own problems and insecurities. Also, I'm trying to fix the weird popping and mouth noises apparently that come through when I talk. I don't know what the problem is. I've been seeing that a lot. Like a lot of people are saying they're hearing mouth noises like it's ASMR. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not trying to do that. I think the problem is definitely me. I don't think it's the mic. I think it's me. I think it's the way that I talk. So just let me know if you guys are still hearing it, because if not, I'll have to like do something in the editing process to change that. But that is all for today. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.